This is the last video in the series on faith first. This is part 6. It's the fifth of the areas or pillars, you might say. Today we're talking about fitness being the finish. So again, the faith first system, if you haven't seen that video, go back and look at part 1 of the series where I just talk in depth for about 20 minutes about the system and how I came up with it. And then in the videos after that, I talked about how these different components of a field really make up the majority of your life. And if you focus on those 5 major areas, you can really get your life in order. But you want to focus on them in a specific order, starting with faith being the foundation, then family being the floor, fight being the frame of the house, then finances being the fence. And today we're going to talk about how fitness is the finish. And so there are 3 principles. Go over this one more time that I think about when it comes to these 5 areas of life. The first one is that anything other than those 5 areas of life, we eliminate or we drastically reduce. That gives us more bandwidth to focus on the major areas of life. And there are plenty of other things that are in life that could have some level of importance, I guess. But if you think about something like the 80-20 principle, which is something that Benjamin Hardy has in a lot of his writing, like 10x is easier than 2x, become your future self. Now, those kinds of books get at the idea that if we would focus on 20% of our life, that really results in 80% or more of getting what we want, then we can really just focus in on those areas and create much more of what we would want. So that's what I'm talking about here, eliminating all of those 80% things, let's call it. And then we make decisions based on the 20%, based on the major areas, the main and major areas of life: faith, family, fight, finances, and fitness. And we make decisions in that order. So it makes it easier when I know that there's something that's a major family issue. I know that I can let go of something that might be a major fitness thing for the day. I use the example of a family emergency, getting a call. I got a call one time when I was in the gym and I was about to get on. I was getting to the bench. I put my towel down to get on the bench, and I get a call from one of my sisters about some emergency. So I immediately had to leave. But it's not a hard decision to make. Family comes before a fitness or a workout. So that's the way we make all of our decisions, and it makes them easier because there's a clear hierarchy there. When necessary, you neglect the lower priority thing. That's what we were just talking about. And so we're making these decisions where sometimes you might neglect a thing that is important in life. It's just not as important as those high priority areas. Today, we're talking about fitness being the finish. This guy right here has a roof that is leaking, and you don't want that. And so fitness is the finish. Fitness is the roof on top. If you think about faith being the foundation, family being the floor, you think about the fight being the framing of the house, and then you think about finances being the fence around the house. Well, there's one thing that's left. That's the finish. That's the roof on the top of the house. And so that keeps the rain out. That keeps the snow from leaking. And so when that roof is not in a good place, that's not good. And yet the roof is not as important as the foundation. Roof is still important. So I don't say all of this. I think I named the video something like why fitness is the least important thing. It is the least important thing out of these 5, but it's certainly still in that area as being one of the 20% of things that give you 80% or more of your happiness, results, joy in life. So there are 4 basic fitness principles that I keep in mind. This shouldn't be that long to talk about these things because they're all things that you already know, but sometimes we just neglect them. I think of the acronym SEED to remember these 4 basic fitness principles. And that is SEED: sleep well, eat real food, exercise daily, de-stress regularly. So let's talk about what those things mean. It goes without saying, but sleep is important. And yet, most people don't do a very good job of it. If there were one of these four things that I don't do as well as I would like to, it's this one. One of the best things I know to do is to go to bed at a certain time and to get up at a certain time and to do that consistently. The problem is, if you don't make a decision that that is going to be something that you do, it becomes very easy for things to get pushed to later. So right now I'm in a place where I would like to go to bed at 10 p.m. and get up at 5 a.m. and just do that regularly. That is a period of time that I can consistently stick to, but I got to stick to it. So last night I was supposed to get to bed at 10, and then I was doing a lot of meal prep, and then had to eat my meal and then get ready for bed, and it ended up being closer to 11:30. And so I'm working on this myself. But sleeping well, when you get sleep dialed in, that is a major part. It may be the biggest part of fitness, but these other ones are important too. But sleeping well, that's something I'm working on myself. If you have any tips, put them in the comments. The second thing is eat real food. This is one of the things that we just don't, as Americans, as people in the 21st century, there's so much out here that's just not food. And I went carnivore a few months back, and it has opened my eyes to how much of what we eat is not real food. And when you look at packages that this food comes in and you read what's in those things, you realize that it's just a lot of the things are made in a lab. This quote here says that the food you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison, by Ann Wigmore. And that's true. A lot of us are poisoning ourselves by the way we eat. Eat real food, and you will see your health improve. I've seen that myself, and now I'm at a place where I can tell. I was in Nashville the other day, and I ate 30 chicken wings. And after that might seem like a lot to you. It's not a lot to me. I could have eaten more, but wings don't have a lot on them. And I wasn't eating anything else. So there were no fries. There was no bread. There was nothing else. It was just the chicken. But I ate the wings, and about 30 minutes to an hour later, I began to have some nasal congestion, and one of my nostrils clogged up, and my nose began to run a little bit. And my sister noticed it and was saying, well, "What's going on with you?" And I said, "Well, it was the wings." And that's clearly what it was. And as far as I can tell, it's probably because they were fried in some kind of vegetable oil. And that's something I've been working on. The more you study what vegetable oil is, whether it's corn or canola or cottonseed oil, or there are these other different types of what they would call vegetable oils that just are highly refined, and there are a lot of problems with them. So if you don't know much about that, look it up, and it's really interesting to see how much of our foods get cooked in that. And now that I don't eat that as much, I'm noticing that when I eat it, it gives me nasal issues. Other than that, I feel fine. And so eat real food. And what you're going to find is that means you're going to be eliminating a lot of things that you used to eat, but you'll feel better, and it'll feel like you're taking medicine or something. And there are things that you might have taken for granted in terms of how you feel. I know I have gout that runs in my family, and a couple of years back, I remember beginning to feel things in my big toe. And since I went carnivore, that went away. And it kind of surprised me, because I knew specifically, like if I was eating a lot of tuna, because they say tuna has something in it that's like that. But I think it's not just simply the eating the fish. I think the carbohydrates have something to do with it as well. I'm not here to tell you you need to go carnivore or keto or anything like that. Just eat real food. I know I've noticed myself by going carnivore that there are things that I thought were just normal that actually aren't, that go away, and you don't realize that it was probably what I was eating. So eat real food. The next thing is to exercise daily. Now, this doesn't have to be some big thing. It could just be go for a walk. Get a certain number of steps in is the easiest way to do this. When I was at the end of my PhD, even during that time, I found that the way my schedule was is I'd get up in the morning, I'd have Bible study and prayer. After Bible study and prayer, I'd get to work, working on the dissertation, writing things, making charts, gathering data, doing what I need to do to improve the dissertation. I'd work for several hours and then I'd stop for lunch. And I'd eat lunch and then I would go out for a walk. And I try to not have my mind on the work. And usually I could do that for a few minutes and then I'd start thinking about the next thing and what I needed to do. And that meant it was time for me to get back to the house and go to work. And so I'd get back to work. I'd work for a while till dinner time. I'd have dinner and I'd go out for another walk. Same thing for 30, 45 minutes, as long as I could until the work started coming back to back to mine, and I'd start having ideas about what to do next. And then I'd go back home and I'd do some more work, and then it'd be time for bed. And those walks were helpful cognitively, like my mental was better because of it. And not to mention that it's good to go for a walk. 10 minutes or so is what I think Stan Efferding calls for. The 10-minute walk after your meal is a good thing to do. Exercise daily, get that walk in. If you can do weights or you can do something else, sprints are a good thing to do. Figure out a way to get your exercise in every day. Finally, there's de-stressing. Now, this is one I don't actually have much of a problem with. I don't consider myself as someone who is highly stressed out much of the time at all, but it's something that some people do struggle with. And if you find yourself stressed, you need to find ways to de-stress. I'm not here to kind of tell you what that is, but if you find that that is something that you struggle with, it has an effect on your health and on your fitness. So fitness is the finish. It's the roof on top. It is not as important as the others. There's a scripture that talks about how bodily exercise has some benefit, but it's not as beneficial as other things are. And that's true. We do want to have a certain base level of health, though. And if you would just do those things, you don't really have to put off anything else to be able to do the things I'm saying. You can sleep well, you can eat real food, you can exercise regularly or exercise every day, and you can de-stress regularly. And it really doesn't displace anything else in your life if you will do those things. So those are the basic fitness principles. Sleep well, eat real food, exercise daily, de-stress regularly. And if you will do that, you will see your fitness get better. That's the faith first framework. So you have these ideas of faith being the foundation, and then within that you have the framework of how to come to better faith, or as far as I see it. And then you have the family being the floor and the framework within that, and then the fight being the frame and the framework within that, and then the last one was the previous one was finances being the fence, and there's a framework within that. This is the last one. Fitness is the finish, and this acronym SEED helps me remember to sleep well, eat real food, exercise daily, de-stress regularly. That's all for today, and that's all for this series. If you have any questions about that, we might go back and go deeper into any one of those areas. If you want to put it in the comments, let me know. But that's it for this series. Until next time, thanks for watching.